What's up, guys? Welcome to the Coach Z Athletics Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Z. Super excited, just like I do every single week, coming at you live to you and yours, and looking to give you young student athletes the golden ticket to get you that opportunity and interest to go and be motivated and inspired and play at the next level. For some of you, if you don't know who I am, my name's Coach Z. I've been a collegiate football coach and recruiting coordinator for over a decade. And listen, I'm trying to give you guys as much inspiration, motivation, to go and be as best as you possibly can throughout this process, and give you the edge, or more or less an unfair advantage over your competitors in this whole recruiting process. I got a real good topic for you guys today. I want to talk specifically about the workload and how much you need to be putting out there to get the interest for the opportunity to potentially get a scholarship and potentially get an opportunity at the next level. So a lot of kids and parents, and I'll run into them at the grocery store, and I'll run into them outside of the classroom or outside of, the football field. And they always ask me, well, Coach Z, I'm sending out emails. I'm putting my highlights out there. I'm also doing my social media thing, and I'm not getting anything in return. I'm getting frustrated. What should I do? And I always tell young student athletes, it's like you always have to be putting in more work. You got to get used to those two words, more and work. Now, let me give you an idea of what I mean. So if you're on social media and you're dialing in and you're doing everything that you should be doing, you just need to be doing more of it. Right? There's thousands of coaches out there, and they've got tens of thousands of you young student athletes or recruits on their desk right now, or even in their DMs, or even in their inboxes when it comes to their Gmail. So you need to make sure and get as much interest as possible. And how do you get that interest? I look at recruiting very similar to gambling or, going to a casino. It's all about the odds. And the more that you play, or the more you put yourself out there, or better yet, we're during baseball season, right? The more at bats that you have, right, the better you're going to get through this process, and the more opportunity to get in front of that coach that you want to go and play for, or that program that you want to go play for, right? The more you put yourself out there. For example, so let's add emails, for example. So I was talking to a young student athlete just the other day that has been given an opportunity to play at the next level, who's at a program. And I kind of made a joke about it. We're talking about how many emails that you sent out, and he pulls out his phone and just starts scrolling down that thing, just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. You're going to go through thousands, maybe tens of thousands of emails that you send out to coaches. And it just is what it is, right? You want to choose a certain amount of schools that you want to play for, but listen, don't feel like you have to stay at, say, 10 or 20 schools. You need to be reaching out to as many schools as possible. I always tell kids to start out with schools that are within arm's reach of where you actually live currently, right? So if you live in, you live in Florida, just start reaching out, mile, 2 mile, 3 miles, 10 miles, then 50 miles, and then just start shooting out emails. And it's always important to shoot out emails to specific coaches, because certain coaches are going to be answering those things. Right? You send them to, especially if you're at the Division I level, all the way down into that D2 level. If you're sending it to these, these head coaches or these coordinators, and a lot of times to these, individual coaches, they're not going to pick up the phone. It just is what it is. So you need to make sure and start really conditioning your mind to start focusing on graduate assistants, player personnel, as well as anybody in the development department, excuse me. And so that's one of the biggest things that kids forget in this whole process, is that it takes a lot of work. So all those schools, right, as far as a simple action plan with emails or even DMs, you should be reaching out to these guys, at least twice a week. And then if they start responding to you, whether it's just a simple follow, right, they're getting that contact with you, just a simple follow, right? Make sure and take that to heart. That's a win. That's a W through this whole process. I don't care if it's something as small as this or something as big as getting a scholarship. It doesn't matter. It's all about progress. You don't have to be perfect in this whole thing, but you do need to make progress. We always say it in the coaching world, 1% better every single day. Go out every single day in this recruiting process and find a W, right? And I would also take that a step further and say, listen, if you're doing everything on the field, you're working hard, you're loving your teammates, your coaches, you're being the best team player you can, you're putting an entire resume aside from everything physical, right? As far as, your emails, your social media, doing all that stuff, but also on the field. Coaches want guys that can come in and play right away, or guys that they don't have to deal with, right? Those drama queens, right? Those guys full of drama. Coaches want to bring guys in that can play right now. And so when you're going through this whole process of recruitment, understand that's part of it. But just remember, it's all about putting in the work. Sorry, I went off on a little tangent right there. It's the coach in me, right? So make sure that you are putting in the work. So your DMs, you should be sending out 2 to 3 DMs to separate coaches every single day. So if you do the math, right, 3 by 7, that's 21, right? 3, 6, 9, 12, whatever it is. So you get the point. So you're sending out a lot of these DMs and also be sending out those emails at the same time. Now, I wouldn't limit it to that, but just remember your workload. You got practice, you got homework, you got your class, all that kind of stuff, but making sure that you're putting in the work. You have to put the time in for, those opportunities to potentially get there. You may send out thousands of emails. You may send out thousands of DMs and send out all your highlights to everybody. And just remember, you may get one response, right? You may get one response. You may get 2. You may get 10. I don't know. But the whole point is that if you want to play at the next level, you got to put in the work, especially if you're an undersized guy like me. I was an undersized guy coming out of high school. I had one phone call and that was it. And I put as much time and effort into getting recruited as I possibly can. And I still didn't get much, right? I still went on. I still played at Utah State, which is a Division I school. I walked on. Everybody kind of gets the idea of my story. But really, the bottom line is you need to open that door. Just remember, you'll probably hear this. I've heard this 1,000 times throughout my entire career. I always heard, oh, well, if you're good enough, Coach Z, if you're good enough, Z, they will find you. And so through the process, I'm not getting recruited. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm not good enough. That's not the case. Some guys' roads are a little bit different than others. But if you put the time and the effort and the work in to get in front of these coaches, whether, say, you're an underclassman and you go and you go to a showcase, which is a great way to kind of get your foot in the door with these coaches and build some rapport and so on. If you go out and you do the work and you get yourself in front of these coaches, right, physically or from a distance with these emails, eventually you're going to get some response. But not everybody's road is the same. I think that's another, major aspect of this recruiting thing is that, young student athletes think, oh, well, I'm not getting recruited. So after my senior year, I'm done. Boom. Everything's over. Here in San Diego, or even in the state of California, we've got 66 football programs. So listen, there's opportunity out there. And these programs sometimes will put on, we'll have on roster 120 guys. There was a guy we had at, I won't name the school, but, a few years back, we had Tim Patrick, who's in the league for multiple years and making millions of dollars. He was at a JC for 3 years. He came and played multiple sports, but he was at a JC for 3 years. And so, everybody's road is different and you can make it and you can do it, but it's all about being educated and understand you need to put in the work. And in the Walk On Warrior course and in this, not Walk On Warrior, that's my old company. In the Coach Z Athletics course and the Coach Z Athletics program, we talk a lot specifically about dialing in your social media and then dialing in your emails, your highlights, but also taking advantage of, in-person visits, because coaches are always going to come by your school, whether they're recruiting you or not. And so having good posture, good eye contact, good handshakes, good conversations, asking good questions, putting in that time, putting in that work. And once a coach gets to know you, they can potentially be impressed by you. But if you're not getting that recruitment that you should be getting, or you think you should be getting, you got to put in that much more work, right, to go above and beyond. Always remember this, that the guys that are getting recruited the most and presenting themselves on social media, chances are a lot of those guys don't make it. A lot of guys don't do as well as you think they do. And, because they don't have to go through the grind that you have to go through. So I want to just encourage you and say, through this tip and trick, this podcast, listen, it just takes time, but you got to put in the work. A lot of guys don't want to put the work in. They're not dedicated to put the work in, sending out those thousands of emails and DMs, and, fixing up their social media platforms to where they're dialed in, with their name, the graduation year, their huddle links, making sure that their timelines are good to go, getting rid of all those followers and who they're following and all that kind of good stuff, making sure that that's part of the work too. And so when you're ready and when a coach comes in and they see you for that one split second, that could be a life changer. And a lot of young guys, a lot of student athletes make that mistake that they're not in position and ready when the time is right. We had a guy a few years ago that was getting recruited, ended up going to Utah State. And he went late in the summer. We're talking mid to late July. And I'm just telling you, opportunities come everywhere. He was a little undersized, but he had the reputation. He got himself out there, put himself out there, worked hard in the weight room, in the classroom, but he had everything dialed in, ready to go to get recruited. Some kids aren't going to get recruited. You might end up having to go junior college. It's a great option. We talked about it a minute ago. Gives you an opportunity to develop in the weight room, on the field, in the classroom, all that kind of good stuff, because not everybody is ready to go at that point in time. So listen, to land the plane with this podcast, I just want to throw that out to you young student athletes. If, depending on where you are in the country, you should be a week 2, week 3 already. Just remember the first 3 weeks are super important. Make sure you dial in your highlights, all your best highlights. Make sure the first 3 highlights are your best, because if you get past those first 3 highlights with a coach, he's definitely interested, and he's probably only going to be watching about 30 seconds of that entire film. So make sure and lock that in every single week. Make sure you make adjustments. Pin it on your Twitter, pin it on your IG. Those are my top 2 social media sites, especially not just for me as a coach, but, all coaches throughout the country are on those social media sites. So listen, dial it in, put in the work. I promise you will get some responses. It may not be on your time or your terms, but it will be throughout this entire process if you put yourself out there and are persistent with the whole process. Go reach out to those coaches I was talking about. Go have some fun with it. Enjoy the rest of the season, but dial in everything. Work hard, bust your butt, and I promise you all good things come to those that bust their butt in this whole process. So listen, for the Coach Z Athletics, listen, the bottom line is I always finish these podcasts just like this. It's not about me. It's about you guys. We'll see you guys in the next podcast.